Welcome back, everybody, to What Makes It Great. Today, we have a new track coming out. You've probably seen it on the top charts. We have Jimin's Who. Ish.
Who? Who is Jimin? That's what I wanted to know when I first heard this track, and then I realized this is the man from BTS who has
Yes.
been blowing up charts for years and years, right? You knew of Jimin before this track, right, Adam?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I've been I wouldn't want to say avid BTS, but I've been following along in the K-pop kind of like realm of music and stuff a lot. And I mean, BTS have kind of transcended past K-pop at this moment. So like, I think a
Mm.
lot of people out there that are very much into the K-pop space don't consider them to be K-pop anymore, which I think is a fair point. I mean, they don't really follow the same rules. But now that BTS is disbanded, also because of like military service, etc., we see all of these like solo acts popping up. The same thing goes with a lot of different acts. But for everybody in the army that watches this, this one's for you. Army is what they call their fan base.
Yeah.
Each group has their own name for their fan base, so that's what I realized. And my cousin was very adamant about
Yeah.
me telling all of these stories. So yeah.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, and I think for anyone who's new to this episode series, the purpose of this is both Adam and I are producers and have been producers for many, many years, and we hope to break down these songs that you're listening to give you a bit of insight into what we think makes them great, start up a bit of a conversation that we'd love for you to get involved in, but share some key principles that you can take away into your own productions, one or two tricks that the pros are doing. So we hope you learned something from this episode.
Yeah.
All right, without further ado, should we get into the
Let's
track?
do it. Let's kick it off.
Never met, but she's all I see at night. Never met, but she's always on my mind. Wanna give her the world and so much more. Who is my heart waiting for? If every day I think about her, yeah, every day of my life, then tell me why I haven't found her. Why? So many people to see, places to go. We still haven't found her love. We never met, but she's all I see at night. Never met, but she's always on my mind. Wanna give her the world and so much more. Who is my heart waiting for? I'll take her places they ain't found, yeah. I'll put it on the line. I'll be there so much she can count on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's so many people to see, places to go. We still haven't found her love. We never met, but she's all I see at night. Never met, but she's always on my mind. Wanna give her the world and so much more. Who is my heart waiting for? Is she someone that I see?
Yep.
Yo, I didn't even want to press pause on that. That was carrying me.
Yeah.
What's the first thing, Adam, that makes
Oh
this
my
song great for you?
God, there's so many things here that like are happening. I think that the old school kind of like 2000s R&B soundscape is very present in
Yeah.
this song. Like I mean with the guitars and everything. Like I don't know what song it is that I'm thinking of, but there is one very specific one.
Justin Timberlake.
Yes.
Um, dun, 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 dun.
Exactly. Yes, that's the
Um,
one. So
that song, like I love
well,
you, like I love you.
yes. That I mean you can hear that it's very kind of was it Timbaland that produced that one?
I'm
I
sure
would
yeah,
presume
I'm sure.
they had a close relationship for a very long time throughout that period, but you can hear the Timbaland kind of Timberlake inspiration soundscape here.
Right.
Let's okay. I don't know where to start off, but let's just start off with something very particular, which is the drums here. Let's go for the drums first.
Mm-hmm.
Because what is so apparent here, and which is very, very old 2010s and 2000s R&B, the Timbaland kick. Just listen to the weight and oomph of that kick.
Yeah.
So I think they got their sound choices very well, like well picked out here from when it comes to this. It's because the thing is like the drum beat is like pretty sparse in the sense of like the amount of hits that are in there, but the weight of each hit is like very, very big. So like from the kick to the snare is kind of like a, I don't know, like a side, like a rim shot kind of thing, but there's
Yeah.
a lot of right elements picked together here to make a solid drum beat and a good foundation for the entire song.
Man, I'm a Timberland geek, and like you
Mm.
hit the nail on the head with that comment. I did his masterclass a few years ago, and one
Oh.
thing, one like tip that I remember that he does when he does his programming is he'll build loads of kits with random sounds that he likes. So he'll just say, okay, let me load in these samples and make a kit, and would just have like he wouldn't like name them. He would just be like call it very generic things like
Mm.
numbers 1 to like 40, and then he'd load them up at random points and see play and feel what comes out.
Hmm.
And that kick drum that you called out here is a good idea of that because it's like got that open hat over it. It's like
Yeah.
chunky and yeah, just amazing.
Yeah, it's massive. And I think that the idea also of keeping it sparse here is that all of the other transients in especially the acoustic guitar kind of like can have some breathing room in between all of these hits.
For sure, for sure. And sparse doesn't mean like it doesn't carry you, right? And I think
Right.
turning the magnet off if you're programming this and
Mm.
moving things off the grid is really important because like if you listen to this beat, it's not flat.
Mm.
And what gives it that sort of that carrying feel like that keeps you wanting to go back is the fact that there's certain elements, the snares offbeat. Like when a drummer would play that, he would have a natural
Mm.
like groove that you can't replicate when you're just programming something electronically. So you have to really work to move things off the grid to capture that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think to kind of emphasize how the like drum programming works off grid, if you can think about like a 4 on floor beat, you just hear like doof 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 doof. The tiniest like details that you can hear shifted out of that kind of pulls you into the direction of where the grid would be, and that kind of gets your head bopping a little bit because you can listen to that like somebody that's an expert of off-grid drum programming is Kate Renata, right? And you can just listen to the beats in and of themselves, like use a stem splitter, toss it in, just take out the drums and just listen to them. You'll hear some mastery when it comes to kind of like getting a groove built just based on the fact that things are a little bit wonky. There's actually a great video on this that I think, who was it? Jacob Collier. He did a video on different time signatures and how they tumble and move you in different ways, and the polyrhythmic elements of it. But it's a good way. It's a good inspiration video at the very least to understand a little bit more about drum beats. But yeah, but that was me. That was a very long-winded way of saying that this is very 2000s R&B. What was your first thing that you wanted to accomplish?
We like the drums. We like the drums.
Yes.
No, man. Yeah, the drums is a big thing. I think you already touched on it, but like just calling out the use of the guitar at the start. It's very rhythmic, right? And
Yes.
when it works with his vocals are very like choppy and also complement that sort of staccato-ish nature of the whole track at this point, which is like
Never met, but she's all
it has a really nice contrast to the longer notes that he brings in later on here. Long notes, and then there's loads of rhythm here as well, like without any drums, like and it's coming from both the vocal melody and the guitar. So I love the way that they work in unison to keep you there. And like, yeah, there's so much going on with his vocals that we could probably spend like a whole call talking about it. But it's like, I think the one thing that I'd love to call out, especially for vocalists listening to this, is the tonality of his voice in this. And it's, I guess, when at least like I've worked with vocalists in the past, they're always trying to like sound close to what everyone else sounds like in that way, and they don't want to like they might, even if they've got something unique about their tone of voice, they're not really trying to champion it in the way they're delivering vocals. And what I love about the vocal production, and it's down to the way he sang it and also the way it's been mixed, is it's got this raspy, nasally kind of feeling to it, right? I can't really put the right, I don't know if you got a better word.
No, but I get what you mean. It's a very sharp kind of like, the only way I could equate it is kind of like, you know, when you're in a club and there's a lot of music, and that the way that you alter your voice a little bit to make sure people can hear you better, which is that nasally kind of like really in your face kind of frequency range.
I think that's a big part of the track for me, actually. Like, if his voice wasn't sitting like this, like if we remove his voice from the track for a second, it's nice, but it's very generic.
It's missing something. Like,
it's super generic.
Yeah.
So like, for me, like the USP of this track is really that nasally tone in his voice, and his vocal melody is beautiful and a lot of it's amazing. But like, if you give the same lyrics to a different singer, does it bang? I'm not sure.
Right. True. Yeah. Very good point. Yeah. No, there are those songs that like elements of where it is very much up to the singer to make it stand out. Because a lot of things, like when it comes to these kind of tracks that have like this timestamp on them, like, oh, this is very this era of music sound. The only thing that kind of brings it out of the space of like being just a generic track coming from that era is the vocalist that is going to be on it. And I think Jimin does a great shout here. Also, like mixing wise, like the fact that these elements, I can't say specifically that they were picked because Jimin has this range, but the mixer definitely did a great job with making sure that there's enough space for Jimin to sing in that very, very in your face kind of range without it sounding overpowering and kind of like tiring for the ear, and not letting also the acoustic guitar like getting in the way as well. So like, I mean, if you look at the frequency spectrum, like at the top end here, there would be like a little cutout from the guitars to let the vocals live there.
Yeah, let's have a quick look and see. Like, okay, look, this is the vocals. Let's see what they're. It's kind of like there's sort of 200 to 500 ranges where it's peaking the most. And then let's see with this is kind of where the guitar is, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's kind of this thing in this sort of lower frequency. At 100 is where it's peaking the most. They sit really well together, man. They do work.
Yeah, a great tip here is just if you want some intelligibility out of like your articulations coming out, try to cut out for like between 2 to 6K out of whatever else there is, because that's where all of our consonants and everything are around like that range, so between 2 and 6K. So if you cut stuff out of the guitars here or the drums or whatever, then you can hear a lot more clearly what he's singing. So just a
Yeah,
pro tip.
nice tip. Really nice.
Mm.
Yeah, there's something about getting the ts and those sort of syllables out in the mix
Yeah.
that makes a voice feel more present, I guess.
Yeah, definitely.
I one thing that I wanted to call out, I heard a lot of really interesting percussion or like sound effects like in the little gaps. Did you
Oh
spot
yeah,
those?
yeah. I mean, yes. This is something that K-pop artists do incredibly well in their songs. Like Air Candy is
Mm,
on point here. This is like, if you listen to K-pop, expert course in just ear candy and switch ups and everything, right? To keep everything interesting throughout the entire song. I don't know
yeah,
where
my
it was
favorite.
though, but there was like right after that piano thingy, there came, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that piano roll, especially the first time I heard that, I was like,
Mm.
"Oh, this is tickling my brain."
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the thing. Like, they don't really care about like, does it fit the entire soundscape? It's like, is it new? Is it fresh? And then, of course, work it in. But like, you don't want to have like an air horn first, and then like a boat, and then a cat. Like, wow, you can, of course. But
I want to find that. Where is it?
I think it's right. Yeah, there it is.
Like, it's so beautiful, and it's like,
Yeah.
Ways on my mind. Wanna give her the world and so much more. Who is my heart waiting for?
it creates a bit of like using the piano roll at the end of a chorus
Mm.
is really interesting because it like usually that's when people just fade instruments out, right?
Yeah,
And you're
true.
kind of like, okay, we're going into verse two, but adding in something that's like a sort of signature to the track there is quite interesting
Mm.
for me.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Because it does give you some sort of element of like, okay, something's coming or something new is about to happen, which is, yeah, I mean, I don't know if that's just generically what I perceive Eastern popular music to be like, but like
Mm.
more is definitely more taking into consideration over there than as it is here. Here we can be like a little bit like, yeah, cut stuff out.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting because you have this like producers have this tendency when they start producing to do
Mm.
this quite a lot and they overproduce and they're like every little gap, let
Yeah.
me try to do a clever trick. And
Mm.
then the natural learning curve is okay, you overproduce and then you kind of say, okay,
Mm.
actually here's the sweet spot. And the I think what this track shows us, there's tactful moments to know when to I wouldn't even call it overproducing, but it's like adding in elements that are fun and like
Mm.
that's the producer like of the track was like, hey, that's my moment there.
Yeah,
And
yeah, exactly. Because it's outside of the other like sounds that are the foundation of the song.
yeah,
Because there's nothing that really sounds like that throughout the song until that specific moment, right?
yeah.
Hmm.
And it just tickles my brain. Just it
Yeah,
feels so
yeah,
good.
that too.
One thing worth calling out, and I guess this is relevant for pop music across the board. And if you're a pop producer or a pop songwriter, this is something I'd really take note of.
Mm.
A lot of the best songs in this genre are made by teams,
Yeah,
and this is an example of that. It had six producers, six songwriters to get it to what you're hearing today. And
yeah.
I've been part of a pop production team in the past, and I can tell you the quality of music that we're making is just so much higher when there's multiple heads in the room versus if I was to try and sit by myself and make a pop song. It's hard because like my strengths as a producer are in drum programming, but I'm not a guitarist or I'm not like a amazing chords player or like there's
Mm.
so many skill sets even within the world of production that you have to do, and you have rare producers who can do a lot of this, but even
Mm.
then just the combination of work these teams probably have people who are specialists in drum programming, specialists
Mm.
in synth production, specialists in effects, like specialists in guitar, and when you bring those four people together you get a really full production, and Same with the lyrics and the melody work and the writing. So
Yeah.
I think that's so important, right, in this space.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. You'll see these huge groups of people, and at first you might think like, oh, that's a bit excessive. Like there's 8 people on one song, where I don't know that I think that the romanticized idea of like, oh, it's just the one person on their bed kind of like writing a song on the guitar. But when you're in a creative space, when you're in a group like that, you feed off of each other's creativity that sparks something else. And it's like the I love the concept of like the creative wheel or whatever it's called. It's like action feeds inspiration that feeds motivation to do more action. And every single time you have like that creative spark, it motivates you to do something, right? And that action feeds somebody else's wheel. And then you have that thing going. So like in a bigger context of like a full systems model, kind of like it just keeps on feeding each other. And you don't know what's going to come out, but like it's the perfect way to kind of feed creativity within music and just creative work in general, I think.
Beautifully put. Beautifully put. But yeah, I think with that, those are my main points with this
Yeah.
track. Anything left on your end?
No, same here. I think that that's probably the main thing. I think the only thing I could say, and this is not to throw shade, but like the bass. We didn't touch on the bass, but the bass is kind of like, it's there. It fills its purpose, but there was nothing special about the bass in this song, which it doesn't have to be. Like, so there are some times when other things are taking so much focus that you just kind of need something to kind of hold it up.
Exactly.
So think of the bass as a plate, and then the rest of the items here a dish, the dish on the plate, right?
Absolutely. But yeah, cool. With that, that is this week's episode of What Makes This Song Great. We'd love to hear in the comments if you have a particular track that you're feeling right now that you want us to analyze. Did we miss anything? Is there anything about this song that you think makes it great? Or do you have a different opinion? Chat to us. We'll reply in the comments.
Yeah, definitely. We'll see you in the next one.
Until next time.
Yeah. Also, follow. If you're not following, follow. We know that like 90% of you not following or 90% of you watching are not following. Please hit the follow, like it, and like. That will really help us out. All right. See you in the next one. Peace out.
If